The wind hit Eli Granger's cabin before the sound did. A low groan rolled down the mountain, rattling the tin roof like an animal trying to get in. Eli was halfway through splitting a log when he felt it in his bones. Something was wrong. The mountain had moods, but this wasn't one of them. This was panic. He set the axe down slowly and looked up. That was when he saw her. A woman hung from the edge of his roof, her body swaying slightly as if the mountain itself was breathing her in and out. Blonde hair, tangled and darkened by blood, fell over her face. Her boots were inches above the ground, toes scraping the dirt with each gust of wind. For half a second, Eli's mind refused to make sense of it. Then instinct took over. He ran. Eli was not a man who ran off. 53 years old, thick-boned, shoulders shaped by decades of hauling timber and surviving winters that killed younger men. He had chosen this isolation after the world failed him once too often, but now he moved faster than he had in years, grabbing a hunting knife from his belt and cutting the rope with one brutal slice. She collapsed into his arms, lighter than she should have been, like a person already halfway gone. He lowered her to the ground, heart pounding, breath tearing through his chest. She coughed once, then again, her eyes fluttered open, blue, sharp even through pain. Don't, she whispered, her voice cracked and raw. They'll come back. Who? Eli asked, already checking her pulse, her neck, her wrists. Rope burns bit into her skin, angry and red. On her left shoulder, just below the collarbone, the skin was raw and scarred. Letters, Apache Lover. The words weren't inked, they were burned. Eli swallowed hard. My name's Eli, he said, forcing his voice steady. You're safe. You're on my land. She laughed weakly, a sound that carried no humor at all. There's no such thing. Her name was Mara Vale, or at least that was the name she gave him once he got her inside, wrapped in blankets near the wood stove. She refused his bed, insisted on the floor, eyes darting to every shadow. Eli didn't push. Trauma spoke in silences and flinches. He knew that language well. The storm worsened as night fell. Snow came early that year, thick and blinding, sealing the mountain off from the rest of the world. Eli didn't mention it, but he knew what that meant. If someone had left her there, they wouldn't want witnesses, and if they came back, help wouldn't. Mara watched him the entire time he worked, her gaze sharp, calculating. She was younger than he first thought, mid-30s maybe, but exhaustion and fear had aged her. When he cleaned the wound on her shoulder, she hissed and turned her face away. You don't have to look at it, she said. I already did, Eli replied. Someone wanted to make a point. She closed her eyes tight. Hi, Diana, they always do. Over the next 2 days, fragments of truth came out. Mara had been traveling with a man named Cole Denton. He'd promised her work, protection, a fresh start. She'd believed him because she needed to believe someone. Cole belonged to a group that lived off the grid like Eli, but they were nothing alike. They didn't hide from the world. They hunted it. They called themselves the Apache Sons. No tribal connection, just stolen language and violent mythology. They believed pain made people pure. That women were trophies. That fear was currency. When Mara tried to leave, they decided to teach her a lesson. The roof, Eli asked quietly. Mara stared into the fire, but because someone would see it. They wanted you to. Eli felt the weight of that settle into his chest. He had built his cabin to disappear, but violence had found him anyway. That night, Eli didn't sleep. He sat in a chair with his rifle across his knees, listening to the mountain. Around dawn, he heard footsteps. 3 men approached from the tree line, moving slow, confident. They didn't bother hiding. Eli stepped onto the porch before they could knock. The leader smiled. Young, clean beard, cold eyes. Morning, the man said. We're looking for something that wandered off. She didn't, Eli said. She was left. The smile vanished. What followed wasn't a gunfight. It was a standoff of wills. Eli knew the land, knew the weather, knew patience. When the men realized he wasn't bluffing, they retreated, but not before promising they'd return. Mara heard everything. They won't stop, she said later, her voice shaking. A people like them never do, Eli nodded. Neither do people like me. The days that followed tested them both. Mara's injuries worsened before they healed. Nightmares took her voice. Eli had to fight the instinct to solve everything with force. Healing wasn't something you could shoot. Instead, he taught her small things. How to set traps, how to read clouds, how to move quietly without feeling hunted. In return, she taught him something he'd forgotten, how to talk to another human being without armor. She told him about her past, about loving the wrong people, about surviving because quitting felt like letting them win. One evening, As snow fell heavy and quiet, Mara stood outside staring at the roof. They tried to erase me, she said. Turn me into a warning. Eli joined her. You're not a warning, you're proof. The Apache sons came back a week later, more of them this time. They didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect traps hidden under snow. They didn't expect a woman who refused to be afraid anymore. The fight was brutal, fast, and decisive. When it was over, the mountain was quiet again. Mara cried afterward. Not from fear, but from release. Spring came slowly. When the roads cleared, Mara had a choice. Leave. Start over somewhere else. Or stay. She touched the scar on her shoulder, then looked at Eli. I don't want to run anymore. Eli nodded. Then don't. Months later, travelers spoke of a cabin on the mountain where lost people found shelter, where pain wasn't currency, where scars weren't shame, and if you looked closely at the roof, you'd see something new, carved into the wood. Not a warning, a name, because survival isn't about what's done to you. It's about what you refuse to become.